Welcome to the very first episode of Dorton and Doetkott Debate. I am your host, Lucas Dorton. I am joined by the one, the only, the man with the best hair that I have ever seen in
Yeah.
my life, Nicholas Duckett. Nick, how you doing tonight?
Not too bad. What's up, Dorton?
Not much, man. We've for those of you who don't know, we have been in the works of talking about this for a while and seeing maybe what could come of it, and we kind of just decided to pull the trigger and just see what happens. So, what do you say? Should we just get right into it?
Let's get it.
All right. So, the first topic that we have to talk about is Myles Garrett's situation. And if you know anything about sports, and even if you don't know anything about sports, I'm sure you heard something along the lines with the whole Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh Steelers debacle that happened on Thursday night football this last week. I mean that was unbelievable. I mean, I've seen a lot of wild things happen in football games before, but that has arguably probably got to be towards the top. What do you think?
I mean, that was crazy. I mean, for one, it's kind of funny. We're talking about the Browns, and it's not about how Baker Mayfield sucks anymore. So I'm sure he's happy. But I mean, so like, I was actually at the casino that night. I mean, I wasn't watching the game that closely.
Sure.
But when I seen that later, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That was just I couldn't believe it. I mean, you see brawls, but
you
don't
yeah.
see helmet throwing. I mean, The funny part is, like, if it's like the second quarter, like, of a close game, like, all right, but this was a 14-point game with like 12 seconds left. I mean, the game was already over.
Right. Yeah, that was just unbelievable, and it's one of those things, and and we'll get into the who got suspended, who got fined, this, that, and the other shortly here, but it's just it's one of those things that it didn't need to happen, it did not need to happen. Baker Mayfield, he actually made a pretty good point after the game when they were interviewing him, and he was like, well, even though we won the game, it feels like we lost. And I agree 100%.
Oh, I do too. Yeah, that's a good point.
Your team has just been, to be nice, pretty terrible this year. And you haven't had a lot going right for you, and you get a big win against a big-time rival. That's like the back burners.
Right? I mean, honestly, I know they're 4-6, and their playoff chances are slim. But in the AFC, where a wildcard team might be 9 wins, and they got an easy schedule, I mean, yeah, that's a big win against the division. And nobody's even talking about it because it's just like the Browns on this. And that wasn't even the only bad part with the Browns. I mean, they had a guy ejected in the third quarter for a helmet-to-helmet hit.
Yeah.
They don't look – that did not paint a good picture for the Browns on Thursday.
No, it didn't. And I was watching some sports talk show, and I can't remember who said it off the top of my head, but they were basically saying that it seemed like, can we go just one game this year – win or loss with the Cleveland Browns, that we don't have some kind of drama or some kind of controversy come from,
right?
It just seems like if the Browns lose, reporter asks Baker Mayfield a question, he gets upset, takes it personal. They win a game, Myles Garrett gone for the rest of the year. Like, there has not been a game where they can just be like, sit back and just actually enjoy.
Kitchens has been questioned for games. It's just
it's just Cleveland.
But I don't know if you looked at the schedule, but 2 weeks from now, they play again.
Yeah.
They play in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could get ugly.
It 100% could, and I'm sure it will.
Hopefully it was, like, so bad to the point where they're like, all right, let's not be idiots. Let's just get through this game. But there's a good chance Pittsburgh's out for some sort of retaliation, I mean, they feel like they're the victims in it, which in a way they are. They're not innocent either, but
no, and
that could get ugly.
And that's kind of a good, I guess, segue into the suspensions and fines and what happened. So essentially, if you haven't heard by now, Myles Garrett is going to be gone for the rest of the year. In playoffs, he's not coming back. He's gone.
And it could be worse yet, right?
I think it could potentially run in the next season. I think I did something like that too. And then two other players have been suspended. The Pittsburgh centers, Marquise Pouncey got suspended 3 games. And then Cleveland's Larry Ogunjobi got suspended a game. For me, I just want a quick comment on the Larry Ogunjobi thing. I just think it's hilarious. Like he wasn't involved with it at the very least.
He just shoved him at the end, right?
Just shoves him. Like, did you not know what was going on? Did you not see what happened, or were you just trying to get involved?
I didn't. I just didn't understand it. It's like, dude, Mason Rudolph just got hit in the helmet, and then you're just gonna come shove him down after he gets up and just like celebrate about it. Like, I just did not understand what he was doing there.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like he just wanted to get in there or something.
Yeah, just wanted his name in the crowd. Yeah. So I guess, first off, Nick, what is your thoughts on the Myles Garrett getting suspended the whole season and potentially in the next season? What's your take on that?
I mean, I actually had a lot of talks about this on Friday with people, and most of them thought at least the season was right for him. Now, me, being that the season's only 6 games left, and the NFL is going to try to set an example. 6 games, I guess I'm fine with. Just say the end of the year, I'm good with that. If it goes into next year, I think that's wrong. That's too severe. Especially, I mean, I know what this guy did is pretty bad, but
right.
6 is good enough for me. I was okay with it, but it better not be any more than that.
Yeah, I agree. I think they had to suspend him the rest of the season. I think that was a given, and I've been seeing a lot of debate. Some people are saying, only give him 4 games because he wasn't the one that instigated it.
Yeah,
which I agree. I mean, Rudolph was the one that kind of started that whole thing.
And I mean, I didn't see Max Kellerman's whole take on it, but I know Max Kellerman was saying something about Rudolph or Garrett didn't start it. Rudolph's going to start it, and he was defending Garrett. Now, I didn't see his whole thing. I mean, yeah, Rudolph maybe started it, but that doesn't give Garrett any reason to do what he did. And I have never in my life seen that happen before. I mean, that was bad.
I mean, that was terrible. And I think the thing of why they suspended him for the whole season, obviously Rudolph didn't get hurt, which was one that was very surprising.
It's thankful because this is the dude who got a blackout concussion like 5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Against the Ravens.
Yep. Yeah. And I think for me, it's one of those things. I was talking to one of my friends about this, and it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, he didn't get hurt from it, but it's the intent of what could have happened. What if he clocks Rudolph in the head, splits his head open,
right?
He's bleeding on the field, and then paramedics are trying to save his life. Like then what? So it doesn't matter what happened. It was like what potentially could have happened.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of mainly why they gave him the suspension that they did for that.
And I'd say, thankfully for the NFL's case, not that it should matter, but say Garrett plays for a team who's currently 8-2, 7-3.
Yeah.
And if you suspend him for the rest of the year in the playoffs, then you got a big controversy because there's going to be some fans all pissed off that they can't have their guy for the playoffs. Yep. Not that should be a reason to not suspend a guy.
Sure.
But the NFL got a little break there, being that the Browns are only 4-6.
Right.
But yeah, I was okay with it being the rest of the year, and honestly, I think it should have been the rest of the year. I do, however, think it should not go into next year, in my opinion.
No, I agree. 100%.
I mean, not that it should be about the Browns; it should be about Garrett. But you suspend him for next year, you're hurting the Browns this year and next year.
Right.
And I mean, I know Garrett made a mistake, but he's losing a lot of money over this.
He is. I think it's like what? Isn't it like a couple $1 million or something like that?
I mean, he's still on a rookie deal too. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where Garrett has had, so far in his short career, he has just had so many just kind of dumb playing past the whistle kind of plays. I mean, even early on this season, he punched Delaney Walker in the head after play. Right. It's like just don't do that.
Well, and like I said earlier, it's like I think there was like 12 seconds left when Rudolph threw it down 14. And I think the reason Rudolph kind of got mad is because, I mean, Garrett held on and went a little late. I mean, I don't think it was anything too excessive, but it was not necessary. It's not necessary ever, especially in that case. It's like, Garrett, just stop. Just enough.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think a lot of it definitely plays into the fact, too, of how Rudolph was playing that game. I mean, what did he threw 3 picks? I mean, it didn't have an offensive rhythm at all the entire game. I mean, I'm sure he was just frustrated at that point.
Oh God, yeah, I think he had like 4 turnovers. I think.
Yeah, he was not playing. He was not playing well. So I'm sure that kind of was a start of it. So then that kind of leads me to my next question. Then, do you think Rudolph then himself should also get suspended?
I do, and I got a buddy on Facebook. He's like, yeah, Rudolph should be suspended too. And I mean, I went back and looked at it, and yeah, you can clearly see it looks like Rudolph grabbed at his helmet.
Yep, trying to rip it off. Yep.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to defend Garrett, but I don't think he goes after Rudolph's helmet if Rudolph doesn't go after his. And it clearly looked like Rudolph went after his helmet right away.
Right.
So anytime you have a fight this bad, whoever initiates it or appears to initiate it has got to get something for it too. Rudolph did get fined, I believe.
I think he did.
I believe he got fined, but I don't think he's going to get suspended, and I personally think he should get at least 1 or 2 games.
Yep. No, I agree. I mean, and I play sports, and you play sports too. And sometimes you just play, and maybe you're having a bad game, or you're just playing terrible. Your team's playing bad, and you just kind of get upset. And you sometimes, say some things, or you play a little more aggressive than you normally would.
I mean, that was on the national stage too. I mean, not that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how much it matters. I mean, you're in the NFL, but that was a Thursday night football game. I mean, everybody's watching. Rudolph's struggling.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be easy to boil over, but.
Yep. No, I agree.
I do think, to be honest, I still really haven't seen. I mean, supposedly Pouncey was going at Garrett afterwards.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so the 3 I think is fine with him. Like that Browns guy. I mean, just for shoving a guy. I mean, I'm one game. I mean, fine, whatever. It's honestly really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
I was fine with that one. The other ones I think I was fine with. For the most part, I'd say the NFL got it right with the suspensions, and they did actually fine both teams, I believe, like $250,000. That was pocket change, but.
Yep. I just think it's hilarious with the Pouncey thing. Like I 100% agree with what Pouncey did. I think your quarterback just got clocked in the head by his own helmet after, like you mentioned before, dang near dying on the field when he got clocked against the Ravens like a little over a month ago.
That was brutal.
Obviously Ben Roethlisberger isn't coming back next year, and this year, Roethlisberger, he doesn't have a lot of time left. So Mason Rudolph, like, he could very well potentially be the next guy for Pittsburgh. And if you're Pouncey, you're like, this is like the future of the team. So heck yeah, I'm gonna go down there and throw punches and kick him and stuff. I mean, I don't have anything wrong with what he did. I mean, honestly, I probably would have done the same thing if I'm Pouncey.
I mean, I don't think anybody should ever throw punches, but I mean, definitely going to get on Garrett, stop and prevent him. I mean, you see that all the time. I was fine with that. I mean, I do think the 3-game suspension. I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with that though.
No.
Right. I mean, the NFL, in a case this serious, you're going to have to lay down the line. I mean, they're going to want to try to set an example, especially when they're trying to do so much with concussions over the last how many years, and now a guy gets clocked in the head. I mean,
yeah. No, I agree. I think something did have to be. I mean, you can't, regardless if it was right or wrong, you can't throw punches, you can't kick a guy during a game. So, like, obviously, he was going to get suspended. So I think the suspension is fair, but I'm also not necessarily upset at what Pouncey did. I don't know. That whole thing though, man, that was just absolutely nuts. I was like, I have never seen a crazier ending to a game. I mean, just for what wasn't at stake. I mean, the game's over. You 1-0 and the game's over.
I mean, there was. Did they even run a play after that?
I don't think they did. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that ended the game. It's like, my goodness, just go home. All right.
Yeah. I don't know. That's funny, but
AFC North matchups, man, those things get brutal.
Oh, they get wild. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any more to talk about this. I think it's kind of been pretty exhausted by so much, so many other people. I think we can probably move on unless you have any more passionate takes with it.
No, I mean, I just think. I'm just going to say, I think the NFL did a decent job with it. I agree with their suspensions. It'll be interesting to see if they do anything more with Garrett. But I just think both teams want to probably get this past them. But I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks whether they're over it or not.
Yeah, we'll find out for sure. We'll definitely have to check back in and see what happens. So now we can move on to some college football, Nick. College football.
Oh, lovely.
It's always a good time. So before we get to any rankings, get into any discussions, potential playoff implications, we have to talk about your Golden Gophers,
Don't do it
Nick.
to me.
What happened? I was pulling for him. What happened?
All right. Well, you see, when they played Penn State last week, I said they got to come out of the gates swinging, just get up front, get on top on the scoreboard. You'll be fine. They did exactly that. Well, they come out in Iowa. I give it to them. They started with the ball because I think they were thinking, we're at home. We want to get up and make Gophers play from behind because they haven't all year. Mm-hmm. Well, they go and punch it down our mouth. They just scored 7 right away. Gophers are down, I think 14-0 they were down. And it's just like they couldn't get back from that. Honestly, I think the Gophers might have outplayed them, but they just dug themselves such a big hole early they couldn't get back. Mm-hmm. And Fleck, I'm a huge Fleck guy, but he got outcoached bad. We could not run the ball, and he just kept trying to run it right away on first down. There was a lot of things that went wrong. I'm gonna leave it at that. It was bad, man.
So where with how much the committee plays favorites with teams and how much they like to, kind of give a little more credit to other teams. In the past, normally Minnesota is not a team that gets credit. Now, granted, sure, they've lost some games, so maybe they're not wrong in thinking that. But like you say, they have a huge win against Penn State. They move up to the top 10, move up to 7th. Minnesota fans everywhere is absolutely nuts.
Biggest jump in the college football poll history. I think it was 8 or 9 spots they jumped. Is the biggest ever.
Yep. And finally, Minnesota's getting love. They're getting the recognition they deserve. And so now if you're the committee, if you're going into the mind of the committee, how far are they dropping?
Well, like a buddy of mine, he's like, well, the Gophers jumped, 7 spots. They'll just get put back right to where they were. I think they'll I don't think they'll go quite back to 15, 16, 17. But, there's no way they're in the top 10. Mm-hmm. Penn State will probably jump them again, even though they didn't look that strong. Right. I'd say they go 12. It kind of depends with this Oklahoma-Baylor game. If Oklahoma loses, they'll be behind us. They'll be behind the Gophers.
Right.
But as far as big picture, I looked at it. It didn't really matter where the Gophers were ranked today. If they win out, they'll be in. If they lose, they're done. I guess now they look at it. If they win out, which probably means a win against Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship, they have a slim shot at making it in. Slim. But at this point, I'd say they're probably sitting at 12, and they're playing for a Rose Bowl.
Which still is a dang good consolation.
And they control their own destiny, too. If they beat Wisconsin in 2 weeks and it's a home game, they're in the Big Ten Championship and pretty much in the Rose Bowl. And for Minnesota, that don't happen. They've never been in the Rose Bowl in my life, I don't think. So,
yeah. Yeah, and I think if they do play Wisconsin, I'm not saying, they're going to, outright either win or lose one way, but I think Wisconsin would win, but I would not necessarily be surprised if Minnesota is able to pull off. Not at all.
It's just natural for me at this point to go into any big game pessimistic. But I do think being at home, we got a good chance against Wisconsin. I'm not going to pick the game yet. But as of now, I'm feeling confident it's at least going to be close. And at home, I hope that means it's a difference maker. Right. But Wisconsin's looked a lot better the last 2 or 3 weeks since they got clobbered by Ohio State, too. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. But I tell you what, Iowa, man, it's like Iowa's like the kryptonite to top 10 teams. If you play in Iowa, if you play at Kinnick Stadium, you better hope you're not ranked top 10 because you always go home with a loss, it seems like. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. Iowa is always a team that they'll probably be ranked normally towards the bottom end of that top 25 list. Yeah. But like you said, if you're a top team, that isn't a walk in the park by any means.
I'll be honest. I seen the Iowa started off as a 3-point favorite and went down to 2.5 and ended up they were 3.5 before the game.
Yeah.
And I was actually kind of surprised. I'm like, why would Iowa be favored? I know it's in Iowa, but really? But shows that whoever put those lines out, they're right. Iowa at home that's got to be one of the hardest places in college football to win.
Oh, absolutely.
At Kinnick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I agree 100%. So I guess just now let's just get into like the top 4, so we don't have to talk about your Gophers anymore. Spare you the pain. But currently, right now, obviously, this is Saturday, November 16th. So there are some games that have finished, or some that are kind of in progress. But as of before they started playing the games, LSU was 1, Ohio State 2, Clemson 3.
Yeah.
I believe if that is
Georgia 4.
Georgia 4. Yep. Georgia 4, and then Alabama 5. What's your take on that? Do you like that starting 4?
I do. See, the top 1, 2, 3, LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, they're undefeated. The eye test, they're probably the 3 best undefeateds. They clearly have to be 1, 2, 3, I think. Gophers and Baylor, I mean, they were undefeated, but I totally understand them not putting them 4. They put, Utah, Oregon above us. Baylor's all the way at 13.
Yeah.
But that top 4, I don't necessarily agree with 4, but 1, 2, 3, I think they got it right on the money. Ohio State and Clemson, or Ohio State and LSU, I mean, you can pretty much flip or flop. It don't matter there.
Right.
Assuming both went out, I think LSU does stay with the 1. The 4 is the question. Now, Georgia, I know you wanted them to lose today.
Oh, yes, I did.
They didn't allow a point to Auburn until the 4th quarter, I believe.
Yeah.
They looked pretty good. So, I mean, they're trying to justify that 4 spot. Personally, I don't think they should have had it, though, because they lost to South Carolina.
Right.
Now, here's my question to you is, clearly, from what I've realized over the last few years, the CFP committee, their biggest thing is who you beat. They don't necessarily look at who you lost to. Their biggest thing is who you beat.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, like, if you lose to South Carolina, whereas you got other one-loss teams like Oregon who lost to Auburn, I mean, who would you have given the 4?
For me, if I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just going to go out here right now, and I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think Clemson deserves to be there right now. I don't think they deserve to be in the top 4.
Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't totally disagree with that. I mean, I think it's justifiable to put them in there. They are undefeated. But, yeah, they have not looked dominating in any of their games, and they did almost lose to North Carolina.
By 1 point.
And if it weren't for the worst 2-point conversion call I've seen in my entire life, they probably would have lost.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, it's just – but Clemson, I feel, for me, before – I know I'm kind of bouncing around before I get to your question, so I will get to it.
Good.
But I just want to touch on this. Clemson, for me, is one of those things, and I feel they've done it with Alabama all these years. Right, Alabama, the dominant team. They win every game. They're destroying teams, this, that, and the other. Based on their past, we're gonna put them in the top 4, and I feel that's what they're doing with Clemson this year because they won the national championship last year. I feel that is why they are in the top 4. Because, like you mentioned, they've had some dominant games where they've looked. But like you said, they win by 1 point against a North Carolina team that had no business being even remotely closing that game.
Yeah, I do. Actually, you bring up a good point. I mean, I think you're totally right on the money there. I think if it weren't for, LSU and Ohio State are 1-2 because they have looked incredibly dominant. You have to
play good teams.
They're still at 3. So, I mean, to ask that question is because of what they did last year. I mean, I think you're on the money there. I mean, I definitely think that has an impact. The question is whether that should have an impact. And most people would probably say no because you're not basing off last year. You're basing off this year.
Right. Yeah. It's just that's the thing is that with the college football playoffs is, there's always going to be teams that either get snubbed, don't deserve to be in there. Kind of like the Notre Dame of last year, they're successful, they win games, but then when it comes to those primetime games when they're playing top teams, they just get wrecked every time, and it's like, there's so many times where it's like, they're playing well, but why put them in there anymore? They're not playing real teams.
I mean, that's why I've had a lot of talks about the CFP and how, first of all, I think it's way better than the BCS. I mean, 2 teams isn't enough when you're talking about 5 major conferences.
Right.
However, the question is, there's some people who think you should have to win a conference championship to get in. Personally, I just think if 2 SEC teams make it or 2 Pac-12, well, if they're deserving, I'm fine with that. And I'm fine with that. However, what would your take be on? I think the best way to go is 6 teams, and then each conference champion from the major 5 gets in, and then that leaves one, a wild card type team for like a UCF or something last year. The problem is you need 2 buys then, because what gets everybody so upset is that in Alabama, I believe last year, 2 years ago, sneaks in with 1 loss when they didn't even have to play an SEC championship, and they say, well, that's not fair. They didn't even have to play it, so how are they going to lose that game? Whereas some teams, it comes down to win or lose that championship game, and you're in or not. And they lose it, and then they're out.
Yeah.
So some people think you should have to win a conference championship. My take, personally, I mean, with it being at 4, if it's at 4, I don't think that should necessarily be a rule. I'm just all for the top 4. But, I mean,
no, I agree. I think I am all for expanding the college football playoff to 6. I think, and I agree. I love your, I guess your take on what you think maybe they should do to expand that. I think you get the Power 5 conference into the conference championships. Whoever wins that, great, awesome. They win that, awesome. And then I agree. I think a wild card team, obviously, it would have been the last couple of years. Sure, maybe UCF, not this year quite. But and that does open up the door for a team like my Gators, who've lost 2 games this year, but they've been 2 really quality. Like they went down to the wire against LSU and went down to the wire against Georgia.
Number 1 team in the country, and they didn't lose by much, really.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still controversy there then, because the problem is with 6 is you need the 2 buys then, because it's not a multiple of 4.
Right.
And then you have controversy with who gets the 2 buys. Granted, I'd rather have that than have the 5 and 6 best teams in the nation who miss out being mad that they don't even make it.
Exactly.
But, you see, it's just, if you go, say, 5 conference champions and then a wild card, is it the 6 best teams? Maybe not. Some of these years a Pac-12 champion definitely isn't a top 6 team. But, I mean, you look at professional sports, anywhere you go, it's divisions and conferences. I mean, there's sometimes, I mean, it's unfortunate, but if you're in a division in baseball 8 years ago before they had 9 years ago before they had the extra wild card, you can be the 3rd best team in your division with 92 wins and you miss out. I mean, it's unfortunate, but every other thing, is set up, divisions, conferences, one from here, one from here, one from here, and then wild cards. So, I mean, college football, I mean, I don't see why it would be an issue to make it the same way.
And that's the thing, and it's not always guaranteed that the favorite is going to win. There might be a South Carolina beating a Georgia or a North Carolina almost beating Clemson. I mean, it happens more frequently than people think. They're just so 6 teams running the table going undefeated. But there's a lot of times where they come down to the wire, potentially even the underdog team wins.
Yeah. I mean, Western Michigan made a big bowl game 4 or 5 years ago, and I believe they beat Wisconsin. I mean, some of these, that's why I bring up that wild card team. I mean, UCF, were they, a deserving team to get in? I mean, it's up to debate. I mean, probably not, but you never know. And if you don't give them an opportunity, you'll never find out. The whole reason people love March Madness is because of the upsets and the Cinderella stories. Well, in college football, they almost don't even allow you that, So, I mean, I agree. I personally do think the CFP's pretty good. I mean, I don't have much issue with it. It's definitely better than the BCS with only 2 teams. But I mean, I definitely think there's room for improvement.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is for the most part, it's a fairly new concept. I mean, we've kind of had it for probably the last 6-7 years, you think? How long has this been around for?
I think I don't know the actual date year, but I think it's 6, because I think Bama's made it every time. I think they said they made it 6 times.
So for the most part, it's still a fairly fresh thing. We don't really have. You can't look back to the past and see, what have happened in this situation, because there hasn't been much of a past. And that just comes with time too. I think down the road, if they continue doing this route or they even expand it, I think they'll find ways to make it better. But that's the thing is that there's always going to be debate. There's always going to be people upset regardless of what happens. Teams that think they get snubbed. It's going to happen regardless. But I think there will be better ways to find out to make it better.
Right. And I mean, I guess I kind of cut you off before, but you're talking about Clemson. So, like, would you, if it were your top four, I mean, I'm guessing LSU, Ohio State are 1, 2, vice versa, but would you not have Clemson in the top four, or would you?
I don't think I would. I think right now, they're just on the outside looking in.
Who would your 3, 4 be, you think?
So my 3, 4, I think, like you said, Ohio State, LSU, whichever one you want to put in whatever place. I don't really care. 1, 2 doesn't matter.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't matter.
They're both gonna. Yeah, it don't matter.
They're both gonna be in there. Me, I think at 3, I think I'm gonna put Alabama. I think they've kind of finally had some. They've kind of had some kind of controversy. I mean, Tua has not been healthy this whole year. They haven't. He hasn't been himself, and they've had to find other ways to win that it may have been tough for them to before. Yeah.
Now the question arises, see, Tua got injured today, got airlifted, and they declared him out for the rest of the season. Now the question is, say Alabama does end up winning out and they only have 1 loss. I would be in agreement with you to say they're probably a top 4 team with Tua, and they'd only have 1 loss. They probably deserve to get in. But do you think the committee looks and says, yeah, they only have 1 loss. They were a top 4 team, but without Tua, they aren't. So we're not going to put them in. Should they be able to do that, and do you think they will?
I don't think they should, and I hope they don't, because I think you have.
I agree. I agree.
I think you have to look at it as a fact of not just Tua, but Alabama as a whole. And Alabama as a whole played a dang good game against an LSU team that looked like they were about to just blow them out of the water. They came back and made that thing close. And I think that definitely is a quality loss. There's, quality losses are such a thing. And I think Tua, him being hurt, I hope, and I wouldn't think that would play in a factor into that.
I hope you're right, because I don't think it should either. But I know in years past, even talking about NCAA basketball teams getting in, and I've heard guys, mention, well, this guy's injured, they should be in with this guy, but without him, I don't know what the committee will do. I mean, I've heard them talk about that in the past, so I just hope it doesn't take effect, because I don't think it should, but it'll be interesting. And by the way, I do think Alabama probably should have been the 4 seed over Georgia. And I know a lot of people, don't like Bama being in there, but anyways. But if they don't make it, I wonder if it's because that LSU loss, if it were in LSU, I think they'd be fine. But the fact that they lost in Bama, it may have an effect.
Yeah.
Because I know LSU is probably clearly the best team in the country, and that's honestly a quality loss, like you said. And there's a such thing as that.
Yeah.
But if they miss out, I think it's because it was at home.
Right. No, I agree 100%. I think if they do play that into the factor, I think that will probably be the biggest, if not the factor. It'll be interesting to see, throughout the coming weeks, see what the committee decides to do, see what routes they decide to take. But we'll just have to sit back and watch, and that's all we can do.
Right.
And then we'll just complain about it when we talk about it the next time.
Right now, the Baylor-Oklahoma game's on here, and I'm watching Baylor's up by 14. I mean, Baylor, right now, they're not getting any respect either. And I totally get it. I mean, they really haven't had that many great wins. They're like 12 or 13 right now. But if they beat Oklahoma and they're undefeated, I mean, there's going to be talks about them squeaking in there now too.
I could definitely see Baylor being the UCF of this year,
right?
Should they get in.
And I mean, if they go undefeated, I mean, I don't see how you can't put them in.
I think it'll just depend on who's in front of them, and then the teams that they beat. That's just all it comes down to, really.
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot to come, but I look at it, I think Ohio State and LSU, as long as they don't lose twice, they're in. I think both of them can lose one more time and still be in.
Yeah.
Clemson, if they lose, I can't see you putting in a Clemson over a 1-loss Oregon, a 1-loss Utah,
Mm-hmm.
Even a one-loss Penn State is a debate between Penn State and Clemson. So Clemson's the one undefeated that Clemson and Baylor definitely can't afford a loss as an undefeated. LSU and Ohio State can.
Right.
Personally,
yeah, I agree.
I hope whoever wins the Pac-12 championship gets in because I think both those teams are deserving.
Yeah, and we'll have to find out. It'll be interesting, but I suppose you should probably move on from that. Talk a little bit of baseball. That's baseball is my thing. It's kind of your thing too.
Best sport there is, man.
Absolutely, and I think we'd probably be in the minority in that thinking, unfortunately. So let's just get into some MLB awards here, and then we'll talk about the Houston Astros thing after the awards. So we'll start some good, end with some bad. So let's just go right into the MVP here. American League, Mike Trout. I think I don't have any problem with that. I think they got it right. Deserving.
Yeah.
I don't think you need much debate there.
No.
Considering the runner-ups were Marcus Semien and
Bregman.
And Bregman.
Yeah. And I just want to say one thing. I know, for people who don't follow baseball that closely, a lot of people probably don't even know who Marcus Semien is. Now, the guy, he balled. He had a good year. I personally don't think he should have been in the top 3, though. I think LeMahieu probably should have been there.
Oh, yeah.
Or Cruz. I think the reason Cruz wasn't is because he missed a few games. Is because he missed a decent amount of games. But I mean, that guy had a heck of a season. Wow. But yeah, with Bregman, Bregman had a good year. But with Bregman and Semien as the competitors, I think it was clear Trout was going to win. I mean, I think he should have.
Moving on to the National League MVP. This one kind of came down to the wire a little bit. Cody Bellinger, Christian Yelich. That one was, I think, like you said, American League. I think that one they got it right. I don't think there's much debate there. National League, I mean, you really honestly could have gone either way. I don't think they got it wrong with getting Bellinger. I think.
If we're up to you, who are you taking?
See, my Rockies same division as the Dodgers, so I see them all the time. I have to go with Bellinger, and I think for the fact that Yelich missed that time at the end of the year, I think that definitely could have been the deciding factor.
I'm glad you said that because I actually lean Yelich.
Yeah.
What you said about the injury, I think that is the reason why Bellinger got it. Now, I'm not trying to say Bellinger had a bad year. Bellinger actually had one of the better MVP years we've seen in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at baseballreference.com earlier at stats, and he had 47 home runs, 115 ribbies, 305 average, 406 on base. Not to mention, I'm pretty sure he won a Gold Glove.
Yeah.
And if you go in terms of WAR, I mean, I don't know how much you buy into that, but he had the highest WAR of any MVP candidate, AL or NL.
Right.
My thing is, Yelich led the league in average, led the league in on-base percentage, still had 44 home runs, but he only played 130 games.
Right.
But to me, those numbers with 130 games, I mean, I know you missed 32, but if you do that over 130 game stretch, I personally think that should have got it done. But you really can't go wrong with Bellinger and Yelich. Both of them, I believe, would have won the AL MVP.
Oh, for sure. Because Trout missed some time at the end of the year, too.
Yelich and Trout,
so far ahead.
Yelich played 130 games, Trout played 134. Well, Yelich had the higher average.
Yep.
He had 1 less home run, 7 less RBIs, and Trout had 9 on-base percentage points better. But Yelich creamed him in average. He had much more stolen bases. And, I mean, they're pretty similar, but to me, I take Yelich.
Yeah, I just think, and like you say, you can't go wrong with either one. Bellinger, for me,
they had a heck of a year, both.
I mean, it was unreal. It was an unreal season.
Rendon's season would have won MVP. I mean,
that's one that's getting left in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, he led the National League in RBIs with 126, and he had 319 batting average.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a heck of a year.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think, and this is a thing too. I think what also played into the factor of how the teams finish, which I've never understood, and I'm gonna do just a quick little 2-3 minute rant on this here. For years and years, they say, a Rockies player has an absolutely outstanding year, but they're not even in the top 3. And they say, Nolan Arenado's team didn't make the playoffs, so he's not up there. I'm like, okay, whatever, still dumb, but whatever. And then, 2 years ago, he makes the playoffs, has an outstanding year, but who's in the top 3? Joey Votto, Giancarlo Stanton, and I don't remember who the last guy, Paul Goldschmidt, I think.
Yep.
Now, granted,
Goldschmidt.
Granted, Stanton had an unreal year. I get that. I'm not upset that they gave it to him. But, Joey Votto's team was absolutely terrible. The Marlins were absolutely terrible. And the Diamondbacks were a wild card team. So now it's like, Cody Bellinger's team wins the division. The other 2 ones are in the wild card.
Right. Yeah. And actually, not that it matters, but I think it might have been J.D. Martinez as a Diamondback when he got traded.
It could have been that.
I could be wrong, but yeah, either way, you're right. I mean, Arenado, his team was even better that year than some of those guys, and he still wasn't getting talked about. And you can make a case for Arenado MVP the last 4 or 5 seasons. I mean, really good.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things that the committee that I've never understood seems like, okay, well, you want a playoff team, but then once you get a guy that's in the playoffs, you throw someone else in there. I don't know.
Well, even with Trout. Trout's made the playoffs 1 time in his whole career.
Yeah.
And I know Trout, his numbers are, exceptional. I mean, one of the best ever. But, I mean, if you're talking playoffs and winning matters, I mean, he's only made the playoffs 1 time. One time.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know. It's always going to be a debate. We should probably move on with other awards here.
Cy Young's the one I really am interested in.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to start with Rookie of the Year, so sorry to burst your bubble, but that's the route that we're going. Then we'll get to Cy Young.
No.
Rookie of the Year, American League, Yordan Alvarez from Houston won it. It was unanimous. I don't think there was really John Means from Baltimore, Brandon Lowe from Tampa, and Eloy Jimenez from the White Sox were the next 3 runners-up. I think they got it right there. And then the National League Rookie of the Year, again, I think they also got that right. Pete Alonso had an absolutely unreal year. There could have been a little more debate with Fernando Tatis, but he also missed some time. Mike Soroka from Atlanta also had a phenomenal season. But Pete Alonso, I mean, the records that he broke this year as a rookie is unbelievable. And he's a former Florida Gator, too, so I have a little more bias to it.
Oh, really? I didn't even know that.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yep. Huge guy. So now we will move on to the Cy Young Award. And the winner in the American League, folks, Justin Verlander. Now, there's some debate. Maybe Garrett Cole gets it.
Yes.
Obviously, Cole finished 2nd place. Outside of that, I don't think there was really – it was pretty much down to those 2. And I don't think other guys' names were thrown in there, but I don't think it matters as much. But if you're picking one, who are you getting, Verlander or Cole?
Cole. Now, I will say, when I went back and looked at the stats, I mean, it is closer than I thought, but I personally would have gave it to Cole. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I looked at basereference.com earlier for this, too. And, I mean, Verlander 21-6, Cole 20-5. Innings pitched, Verlander edges him. And ERA and WHIP, they're both really close.
Yeah.
The thing is, when they're almost identical stats, I mean, you may say, what's the matter? One of them, whoever goes, it's fine. But to me, Cole had one of the best 3-month stretches as a pitcher in Major League history.
Yeah.
And personally, I think that matters. Because there was 4 months where I don't think he lost. And I think the Astros as a team lost once or twice when he started in a 4-month period.
Right.
So, to me, I don't know how you don't give it to him. I mean, I'm not saying Verlander's not worthy of it, but I personally give it to Cole.
And, both having 300-plus strikeout seasons, too. I mean, it's just another stat that I think I agree with you. I think you got to give it to Cole. Like I said, you're not going to not a bad person for picking Justin Verlander, but pick. But I think also another thing that plays in the factor, too, is that, and I didn't realize this towards the end of the season, but Justin Verlander gives up a lot of home runs.
I think he led the American League in it.
Yeah, and juice balls or not, if you're a Cy Young Award winner, that's definitely got to look at that. So I think they should have given it to Garrett Cole. I don't think they necessarily got it wrong in picking Justin Verlander. Not going to go wrong with it. It's kind of like, it's kind of like the NL MVP. Bellinger, Yelich,
right?
They have your opinion, but you're not going to go wrong in picking one.
Well, it's kind of funny. Morton was, obviously Morton's not going to win. He had a good year, but Morton was the 3rd guy up for it. Well, he was an Astro last year. I mean, if he were still an Astro, they'd have the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty wild. National League Cy Young, Jacob deGrom won it again for the 2nd straight year.
Yeah.
Good for him.
He
started off having a terrible year. He had a 480 year in April.
My Twins rocked him.
bad. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember that. And then from May 1st for the rest of the season, he was the NL's best pitcher, going 9-5 with a 2.07 ERA in his last 27 starts. Um,
Wow.
Obviously Hyun-Jin Ryu from the Dodgers also played well. He is second half struggled a little bit more, but and then Scherzer obviously had his injuries, throughout this season. But I think with DeGrom, I think you 100% got this one right.
Oh yeah, and see, DeGrom got all but one first place vote. Ryu got the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Now I will say, Ryu had a dominant year. The first half was one of the better first halves we've ever seen.
Right.
And I've always, for one, said ERA is the most important stat for a pitcher because at the end of the day, I mean, you win a game off runs, and Ryu had the best ERA, but it was only by 0.11,
Right.
and DeGrom had 22 and 2/3 innings more. So to me, innings more pitched. So to me, I mean, DeGrom, I think, clearly deserved it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you pitch that many innings, go late in that many games, he only had 11 wins, but that's because the Mets suck. I mean,
yeah.
I thought DeGrom was definitely the case.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting. Hey, we can move on to some managers of the year, though. Your boy Rocco Baldelli, 100-win season. Yeah, honestly, if he doesn't get manager of the year, they screw up big time.
I mean, and say what you want about manager of the year. I mean, essentially, I don't think they're necessarily voting on who's the best manager. Normally, it goes to if your team is bad last year and then they're good, you're gonna get it. Well, Rocco did a heck of a job with a squad that wasn't expected to win anywhere near 100 games. He clearly deserved it, I think. Yeah. It's kind of funny because at the beginning of the year, I was kind of critical of his lineups that he threw out there and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, you win 100 games. I mean, yeah, to me, that was the easy pick. He didn't win by much, though. He didn't beat Boone out by very much.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's the fact that how the Twins were before, because if I'm not mistaken, they lost 100 games, didn't they? Or they pretty dang near close.
Twins, 3 or 4 years ago they did, and then when they made the playoffs and lost to the Yankees in the wild card, that was the year after they lost 100.
Okay, yeah.
Molitor got it that year.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was 2 years ago. Yeah. I mean, good for Rocco. I've been a huge Rocco Baldelli guy. I've loved him since he was a player on the Tampa Bay Rays. Yeah. And unfortunately, I had to retire early because of some health issues. But yeah, good for him. I mean, I think that's a great story and 100% well deserving.
Yeah.
So move to National League Manager of the Year. This one, you could have gone a few different routes, but Mike Shildt won it for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah. There also really wasn't an obvious pick in there.
First manager of the year to have never played Major League Baseball before to win it. So I think that was pretty cool.
Yeah, see, I don't know about you, but that was kind of shocking to me. That surprised me. I'm like, yeah. I mean, I know obviously most managers played, but to think the first one ever to not play that was shocking to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I was pretty shocked. Yeah, great for him. I think so. I don't know if you've looked at the result standings at all. Have you?
No.
Okay. So I'm just this is a no particular order. I'm just gonna list off the guys, and you tell me where you think they finished. Okay. So obviously Mike Shildt, he won. So you don't have to guess that. Obviously you use number one. You got Dave Roberts from the Dodgers, Craig Counsell from Milwaukee, Dave Martinez from Washington, and Brian Snitker from Atlanta. If you had to guess where those guys would be ranked, where do you think they would be?
I mean, the turnaround Washington had, I think Martinez has to be second. The Braves with that year, I think. What's the Braves manager? Sorry, I'm blanking on that.
No, that's all right. Brian Snitker.
Snitker, yeah. I think he'd be third, and probably Roberts fourth.
Okay. So, Craig Counsell actually finished second for Milwaukee. Yep. Dave Martinez finished fifth.
No way.
He was fifth on that list. He did not even receive one first place vote. He had 3 second place votes and 6 third place votes. He didn't have one first place vote. He didn't even finish third or fourth. He finished fifth.
No, I mean, I know these are regular based off regular season, so I mean, at least they didn't, he won the World Series, we're going to give it to him. I respect him for that, but when you have the turner, I mean, and Grant, you could say, well, he wouldn't have had to have the turnaround if they didn't start off so bad. But when you start off that bad and have that turnaround season, I mean, to me, that's good manager. That's good managerial work. And Council, I actually love Council. And to be honest, even though I'm a Twins fan, I like me some Milwaukee Brewers.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, I thought they kind of underperformed this year. I thought they should have won that division. So
yeah,
I'm surprised he got second.
Yeah, I think, and then not just to mention with help. I mean, Washington was bad. Like they were starting to look like they needed Bryce Harper. I mean,
they were the second or third worst team in the National League at one point.
They were terrible. I mean, they were a hard team to watch.
Scherzer was Scherzer was talking about being traded.
Yeah. I don't know, that's pretty unreal to me. But you can't. I mean, Mike Schill, I think, definitely well deserving. I personally, I would have given it to Dave Martinez, but.
All right, you would have gave it to Martinez. So we're both high on Martinez.
Oh yeah.
I'm fine with Schilt getting it because I honestly did expect the Cardinals to be pretty good this year.
Sure.
But roster-wise, I mean, I don't think they really matched up with Milwaukee or even the Dodgers, really. So I think Schilt did a really good job.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. And, who knows? I mean, I think it's definitely kind of interesting to see what happens. Obviously, this is voted on in the regular season, but just for the World Series standards, if Trent Grisham plays the ball the right way in right field, Washington might not even make it past the wild card.
Isn't that crazy? They won the World Series, and I remember I had bowling league on a Tuesday night, that NL wild card game, and we're all watching, and we just went crazy. We're like, oh my gosh, the right fielder just totally misplayed it, which was, by the way, his first error ever. I mean, he is, I think, a rookie, but if that guy don't make that error, there's a good chance the Nationals don't even win the National League wild card game and then they win the World Series. It's just baseball, man. It's a crazy game.
It is a crazy game, but that's why I love it, though. That's why I love it.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty much all the big awards we have. I mean, obviously you got your Silver Sluggers, Gold Gloves. No shocker, Nolan Arenado won it again. Breaking news.
What is that? 9 in a row?
7. No, 7 years. Yeah, 7 years in the league. 7 Gold Gloves.
7. Yeah.
Yep.
7 in a row. Yeah, that's crazy. He got platinum glove too, right? Him and Chapman.
Back years.
And third baseman, man, they're just hogging it.
And what's even crazier too, and you may know this, but Nolan Arenado, Matt Chapman went to the same high school.
I did not know that.
Same high school.
Seriously.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy, huh?
Wow. I'd hate to have to follow those footsteps, fill in those footsteps.
Yeah. Oh, I think Nolan Arenado graduated first. And I think it was Matt Chapman after that. But just to think, what you're like the guy that replaces two guys that just get drafted into Major League Baseball, and just imagine the kind of
quit.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That's crazy. That's what was it? Bryce Harper and
Joey Gallo.
Joey Gallo, yeah.
Same little
Vegas. Yeah.
Crazy how that works, but but we could probably move on now. We have a couple more baseball things to talk about. We're going to talk about the most recent one with the Houston Astros. For those of you who do not know, former Astros pitcher Mike Fiers is the whistleblower of the century.
Gosh, Astros fans must just despise that guy.
He goes out there, for those of you who don't know, goes out there pretty much, this was probably sometime last week, kind of comes out and says, well, so that 2017 run, it wasn't as good as you thought it was because we had a camera in center field and we had, I just think it's crazy how they did this. They have a camera in center field and then they have a little TV at the end of the dugout leading into the clubhouse and a guy just banging on a trash can whenever they had an off-speed.
To be honest, I'm surprised nobody found that out earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to give it to them. I mean, by no means do I condone this. I'm glad they got caught, but
sure.
I mean, they definitely knew what they were doing. I've seen the video, and you could clearly hear banging in the dugout when it was an off-speed pitch coming.
Yep.
And then is Danny Farquhar for the White Sox at the time.
Yep.
It was a full count. He calls the catcher out. He clearly knew they were stealing their signs. He throws an off-speed pitch to Evan Gattis, and Evan Gattis didn't know it was an off-speed pitch because they never made a sign, and he looked and he was fooled.
Yeah.
So,
what's your take? I just want to hear your take on just sign stealing in general. So let's just like put aside the way the Astros did it and just like a general other ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's your take on that?
Now with me personally, stealing signs, and there's a lot of people with a lot of different takes on this.
Yeah.
In baseball, to me, honestly, if you're doing it legally without the use of a camera, whatever, I'm okay with it. Honestly, I just think it's being smart, taking advantage of of tells. Pitchers have tells sometimes. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that, pointing that out, and I do think the Astros were stealing signs without the use of these TVs at times.
Oh
too.
yeah.
I mean, obviously they did use the cameras, but I think there was times where they didn't, where you could tell too. But to be honest, I'm totally fine with stealing signs in general as long as you're doing it without the use of outside sources.
Right. I agree 100% with you. There are, and you hit it right on the head. There are clean and there are, okay moral ways to steal signs. If it's just, oh, I'm gonna have a guy at second base and I'm gonna looking at the signs and then I'll flash my arm or something if that means an off-speed pitch is coming.
Right. And I mean, honestly, I don't catch, but my brother was a catcher. My sister even caught in softball, and there's a reason when a guy's on second base that these catchers throw down multiple signs.
Yeah.
And you say this is the second time, this is the third time, because they know they can see you from second and can attempt to steal the signs. I mean, there's a reason they do that. It's a part of the game. It should be a part of the game. There should always be smarts and mental things involved in sports, and that's one of them in baseball. And I'm totally fine. Like I said, I'm totally fine with it as long as you're doing it legally.
And to me, it's one of those things too. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of similar to like a football quarterback. A quarterback goes out there, goes to the line, reads the defense, calls an audible. So okay, but then the defensive player, they know what that audible is, like what they audible to, and so they adjust their defense to that. To me, it's like the same thing. You see what signs a catcher's throwing, and you adjust your hitting, you adjust, whatever you do, your strategy to that. Now, I will say this on Houston's side, they obviously would have had to have found that out the clean way before they did it the dirty way. They just went the dirty tactic and made it 100 times easier to pick up. They have a camera zoomed all the way enough the catcher's fingers. It's pretty easy.
Oh yeah. That's a good point though, because they have to be able to tell what's off speed and what's not first in order to do that. And I remember the World Series against the Dodgers, they were the podcast kept telling how Darvish is tipping their pitches. I mean, even the broadcast kind of knew Darvish was doing things to tip his pitches. I mean, it's not like the only way they got this was outside sources.
Right.
But yeah, now how would you go about handling this if you're Major League Baseball? Would you, put the gavel down and punish Houston, and how would you do it?
It's so hard because one, the games have already been played, so you can't strip them. This isn't NCAA, you can't strip them of their championship title. I think what you do, I think you take away draft picks. I think you start there. I think you definitely fine. Once they do that, and remember, let's remember too that there's been a lot of videos that have showed that there probably was some banging going on, but there still is an investigation going on. So for the most part, a lot of this is based off of what a former pitcher that probably didn't have a so happy ending with the Astros was saying. Right. Now, I would tend to believe that they were doing those things, but this isn't 100% that they did, 100% that they didn't.
True.
So, but once they find out that they do, I'm assuming they will, they have to kind of find out who kind of instrument. They have to find out who was the brains behind the operation. And I think you definitely, if the player, I think you definitely suspend that player a certain amount of games. If it's someone in the ownership, I think you can't really suspend them. I don't know. Maybe
it's the assistant GM who's already canned.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it was him too. Maybe that's actually since I got rid of him. But no, I don't know. It's just so hard because the games have already been played. The series already happened. So I think the most that you can do is find them and take away draft picks. I don't know much more you could do.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you can say, "Oh, we're going to take your World Series away." I mean, you can't do that.
No.
And like Reggie Bush, I'm pretty sure like didn't they take his Heisman away for stuff he did? It's like, well, everybody's still going to recognize him as a Heisman anyways.
Exactly. He just doesn't have the physical,
right? Yeah,
physical trophy with him anymore.
But yeah, they're kind of like personally, I don't mind the New England Patriots, but they're going to be like, in some people's eyes, the New England Patriots of baseball now,
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to rub a lot of people the wrong way, that's for sure.
Yeah, they're not going to be looked at as the lovable Astros that everyone kind of can relate with. Started from the bottom, now we're here.
Yeah, especially like I said with that, and this is a whole different topic and not good stuff. But with the I believe it was the assistant GM with the comments he made. I mean, that just happened recently, and now this. I mean, you don't want to be the Cleveland Browns or the Houston Astros right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. So let's move on to some predictions here. Some free agent predictions. That was something that one of our fans, Benino Trujillo, one of my buddies, wanted us to talk about. So we're going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about every free agent signing, but we will talk about some of them.
Take a while.
Some of the big name ones, because we're already an hour in and we're about halfway done. But that's okay. So we'll just start off. Garrett Cole, Nick. Where's he going? Where's Garrett Cole going?
Well, everywhere I look practically has him going to the Angels. But honestly, I think he's going to stay. When they lost the World Series, you can take it how it is, but he had this long Twitter post about, pretty much addressing the fans of Houston. And some people may say, it was like a goodbye letter, but personally, I think it's I'm sorry we didn't win it this year. We're going to come back and win it. And I personally think he's going to stay. I know he's from Cali, and a lot of people think that's why he's going to play for the Angels. But I mean, let's face it, LA's not that good. And he's going to get the money wherever he wants to go. I think he's going to stay.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, how are you?
I personally think normally when Yankees are linked to a big name player, more than a lot of the times that actually at least as of recent history has showed, normally they don't get that player. Like normally they go somewhere else or go back to the team.
Yeah.
I think this is one of those cases where they are going to get either a Garrett Cole or a Steven Strasburg, potentially both, because apparently Brian Cashman was informed by the owner that they don't care if they go over the luxury tax. Right. So that could be a thing.
Well, I don't know if you've seen it, but CC said he and Garrett Cole were talking about, Cole going to the Yankees.
Yeah. So I could see him. I definitely agree with your point. I think there's a high chance he goes back to Houston. I personally think the Yankees don't miss on this one. I think he's going to go to the Yankees. I definitely kind of a 7-year, $200+ million deal. I think is 100% in the works for this.
Well, and contract wise, I mean, wherever he goes, I think it's going to be somewhere around that year and that number you shout out. I mean, he's the best or the second best pitcher in baseball. I think he's going to get the money wherever it goes. It just depends on where is he going to go.
Well, who knows? Maybe he pulls a upset and goes back to Pittsburgh.
I think that's unlikely.
I think that is very unlikely, but we'll have to see. The next big name pitcher, Steven Strasburg, Nick. Where do you got him going?
See, I mean, you're not going to like this answer, but I have no idea. See, because the thing is, if it were just him, I'd say he goes back too. But it's him and Rendon for the Nationals, and they probably had the money for both. But I think it's unlikely to think they'll re-sign Strasburg and Rendon. Mm-hmm. So the question is, which one are they going to get? I lean to Strasburg, and I lean to him staying there. But I think the Yankees are a big player for him.
Yeah.
If I'm going to guess, I'll say he stays put too, but I'm not too confident about it.
I could definitely say that, but I think if it comes down to Strasburg or Rendon, I think you gotta go Rendon. I mean, Nolan Arenado, my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, best third baseman in baseball. I think Anthony Rendon is number 2, and I don't think after the postseason this guy had, what this guy has done for the team, you know, like here's the thing is that they're going to be fine with pitching. You know,
And
obviously
that's
Steven Strasburg is. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, it's going to be hard to replace a Steven Strasburg, but they said the same thing about Bryce Harper, and they didn't even miss him. You know, Steven Strasburg, my opinion, a lot of people might not be talking about this, but I could definitely see him going to a team like the Boston Red Sox. I think Boston.
It's kind of interesting because you haven't heard much about Boston being players this year, but at the end of the day, it's still Boston, you know?
It's still Boston, and I think after winning the World Series 2 seasons ago and missing out on the playoffs this year, having just a terrible year, extremely underperformed, I think they're got to go all in, and I think Steven Strasburg is going to be that big name guy that he gets.
Well, now that you mention it, let's say you're right about Cole going to the Yankees. Well, you think the Red Sox are just going to want to sit back and take that?
Yeah.
They might be like, all right, I see you and I call you. We'll get Strasburg.
Yep. Yeah. That's my take on that. I think he goes to the Red Sox. I don't think the Nationals are going to have the funds to get Rendon and Strasburg, so I think at the end of the day, they're going to keep Rendon. Which brings us on to our next one, Anthony Rendon. I already think he's going to stay with the Nationals. What do you think?
From what I've looked at, it appears he's going to be somewhere in the NL East. It's either he's going to go back to Nationals or the Braves are in talks and the Phillies. And the Phillies are interesting because they have another third baseman that's pretty good on the market too, Donaldson. Honestly, like I said, I'm leaning Strasburg to the Nationals, which means if that's the case, I think Rendon's gone. I'm going to say he signs with the rival. I know Nationals aren't going to like it, but I say he goes to Atlanta and Donaldson goes elsewhere. Because Atlanta appears to be real players this year. They want to be, at least.
That's a tough one. Yeah. I wouldn't have guessed that. Atlanta does not seem a team that would do that. But like we said, we've seen much crazier things happen. And you know, when Bryce Harper left, I certainly didn't anticipate he would go to a team in the exact same division as the Nationals. So it could definitely be on the table. I would not completely mark that off your list. If he goes to the Braves, Nick Duckett, start listening to them.
As far as team-wise, the Nationals are definitely the most interesting right now in free agents because they have the best hitter on the market and probably the second best pitcher. Sure. If they get them both, they're going to be a big contender next year for the World Series again. But yeah, I agree with you. They're probably not going to have the funds for both. And the reason I don't, if Strasburg were a free agent, I definitely say Rendon's back to Nationals. But I personally am leaning Strasburg staying. So I think Rendon's going elsewhere, and I'm gonna say the Braves. I'm gonna go out there and say the Braves.
Okay, I like that though. I think that's a good one. I'm a fan of that.
The one guy I'd like to touch on, I just want to hear your opinion because I don't want to be biased here, and I don't think he's going to go to the Twins, but I have heard and read rumors about Bumgarner possibly signing with the Twins. I'd say I need to see it to believe it, and I don't think it's going to happen. But where do you think Mad Bum lands?
That's actually interesting because I was actually the next player I was going to bring up, so that's good. But Mad Bum, I'm with you. I don't think he goes to the Twins.
No.
Personally, I could see him going to a team like Tampa. And Tampa is not a team that really goes out there and spends money. And you don't got to break the bank on Bumgarner. I think if you give him like a 4-year deal somewhere around, 50, 60 million, which for Tampa Bay Rays standards, that's a lot of money. They're not known for getting those big name guys. But I think with Blake Snell there, I don't know about Charlie Morton. I believe, I don't think he's a free agent. Him still being there, and then with that amazing bullpen that they have, if they can get one more pretty decent starter in Madison Bumgarner, I think they could be a legit team. Remember, they took Houston down to the wire this last year.
Oh yeah.
Down to the wire. And I think if you add a Madison Bumgarner to that rotation, I think that helps out big time. So I can see him going to Tampa.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just want to say one thing. I think Tampa is the best run organization in baseball. I think them and Oakland. I think if they had the salary cap that even the Twins had, who are middle of the pack, I think Tampa would be dangerous year in and year out. And they are pretty much regardless. But it's interesting you bring up Tampa because I wasn't thinking that. And you said, they don't break the bank. but they're not going to have to because some years Bumgarner will be the best or second best pitcher on the market. But right now he's probably the third best starting pitcher because you have Strasburg and Cole. So it might give the Rays room, to get Bumgarner for a little cheaper price because he's not the most coveted free agent.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see where all these guys go. I mean, obviously there's about 100 other names we could probably go through, but for the sake of time, we will save those other big names for another show.
Just one thing, though. Yep. I want to say, I'm not team in general. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling Bumgarner, since he's such a great hitter, might stay in the National League because I think he might want to continue hitting. I know it's only once every 5 games when he starts, but I think he might want to stay in the NL.
Or if he goes to the AL, he just hits for himself as a DH. I mean,
I would love to see that. The Rays would be the one organization to do that.
Oh, for sure.
They actually did it this year with what's his name? Gosh darn it, rookie. He hit a little bit and he pitched a little bit.
Brendan McKay.
Yeah, there you go, Brendan McKay.
Yep. Well, that'll be interesting. So we're going to move on from baseball. We're going to move on to some NFL now as we are getting back into that. We're going to make some predictions here. We're going to maybe try and do this every week, see if we can get it right. Obviously, we're kind of a little more than halfway through the season here, but we will rally up our predictions at the end of the year and see who has bragging rights, or maybe neither. Maybe we'll just have
we got to see. We got to see if we got any skills, right?
We got to see if we have any skills. And when we like to talk about sports, it doesn't mean we actually know what we're talking about.
Right.
Okay, so we're going to start with, because it's the first team that's shown up on my ESPN radar, Bills-Dolphins. Who do you got in that matchup and why?
Well, Dorton, I told you the Dolphins are running the table.
Oh, yeah, 9-7. We're running wild card team, baby. We are going to win the Super Bowl this year.
But, let's see. Where's that game at? Miami?
In Miami, yep.
Let's see. I mean, the Bills are coming off what to me is not a surprising loss, but a bad loss for the Bills.
Yep.
To the losing of the Browns. So I kind of feel like they're going to bounce back. But honestly, I'm going to go out and say it. The Dolphins have won 2 in a row. Obviously, their season's still pretty much over, but I think they're going to rally the troops, get another win. 3 in a row.
You think so?
I really don't think the Bills are very good. I know they're 6-3, but they're not very good.
And I don't think the Bills are either. But in the past, when we've had better teams, the Bills are always a team that we struggle against for whatever reason. I think the Bills are going to win. Obviously, I don't like picking against my team, but for any pick 'em I've done this year, I have not picked Miami to win one time. So
I can't blame you on that.
Normally I've been all right, but I don't know. We'll see.
They play Cincy like week 15 or 16, so you can pick them that.
We can. I can pick them that. I think I'll be okay there. So move on to the next matchup. I have Cowboys-Lions. This is an interesting one, especially if Matthew Stafford plays. What do you think?
If Stafford's out, definitely Dallas. If Stafford plays, the Lions are that one team, especially at home. They'll hang around with anybody. But I personally think being the Lions can't run the ball and Cowboys can with Elliott. If they get a lead, I just don't see the Lions coming back. I'm taking Cowboys.
Okay. I agree with you too. I just think Dallas, obviously coming off of the game and where they lost to your Vikings, I think they're gonna have to go out there and get a win. We'll move on to the next game here. We have Jaguars and we have the Colts. Interesting game. Jacoby Brissett's going to be coming back. Nick Foles is going to be coming back, so we'll actually get to see him after Minshew Mania for a while there. Yeah. Who do you got?
This is a tough one for me. Colts are home, so typically I'd lean Colts, but they're kind of on a slide right now, and I think Nick Foles is going to say, hey, I'm coming back. They're not done yet. I mean, the Jaguars are 4-5, but they're not done. I think Nick Foles is going to want to make a name for himself, show Jacksonville he's here, and I think I'm going to take Jacksonville.
I'm going to go with the Colts. I think, obviously, losing to Miami last week, that was wasn't good by any means from them. Now, obviously, they had Brian Hoyer in there. Brissett wasn't in there, but whatever. As a Dolphins fan, I'm taking a win. I don't care who's at quarterback. But I think the Colts are going to – I think they're going to get the win. I think Brissett's going to run all over the Jags. So I'm going to have to go with the Colts for this one.
All right.
Our next game that we have, Broncos versus your Vikings, Nick. Who do we got?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to call out Donnie Swanson here if he listens. That's my buddy. He's a Bronco fan. You know, Donnie, I'm sorry, but I think it's a beatdown coming. I really do. I mean, call me biased if you want, but Denver, I'll give them this. They've only lost big one time this year. They've been in every game. But, you know, when that team's on the road, they're not as much of a threat. And the Vikings at home have just demolished teams this year. The Falcons, they demolished them. I mean, the Eagles, they even handled pretty well. I think the Vikings, even without Thielen, are going to be all right because the Broncos pass D is good, but their rush D, they really struggle. I think Dalvin's just going to eat them up. He's going to cook.
I agree 100%. I think I like the nice play in words there. I just realized that with Cook. But,
had to try.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think the Broncos are just a team that probably should be losing games for the sake of helping out their team in the future. If you will talk to me, obviously I live in Colorado. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. Don't ask me how that worked out, but it does. I have never been a Broncos guy. I will be the first person to criticize them in any moment. And the Broncos are a team that John Elway sold the soul of to win a Super Bowl. And I knew right when that happened, when they got Emmanuel Sanders, Peyton Manning, all those big name guys.
Yeah.
They were going to regret it in the future. And now, well, it's the future. And they are certainly regretting it because they have no quarterback and no plans of really doing something. I don't think Drew Lock's going to be very good either whenever he plays.
I will say this, though. I'll take 5 years of bad football if the Vikings could give me one darn Super Bowl for once.
You know what? I'm going to one-up you. I would take 5 years of bad football for a Miami Dolphins team to win a playoff game. I don't even think we go to the Super Bowl. Just win a playoff game.
You do have the only undefeated season. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, we do. We do. That's true.
Money was important.
So we're gonna move on to our next one. New Orleans Saints at Tampa Bay. Who do you got?
This is interesting. Now, I'm going to put the Saints on upset alert. That does not necessarily mean I'm going to pick against them. I'm going to lean Saints. But the Buccaneers, say what you want about Winston, he's going to be the difference in this game, whether it's good or bad. They got Evans and Godwin. They're going to be able to pass the ball. It's in Tampa. New Orleans is a drastically different team on the road than they are at home. And they're missing their best cornerback, who honestly you could make a case for top 1 or 2 cornerbacks in the league on Marshawn Lattimore. So I think the Buccaneers are going to put up some points, but I'm going to lean Saints by like 3 points. I think they win, but just barely.
Okay. Yeah, I go with the Saints too. I think they obviously getting embarrassed by an Atlanta Falcons team that's terrible this year.
That was crazy.
They got to do something. I could definitely see them. I would not be surprised if Buccaneers pull off the upset. Here's the thing with Jameis Winston, is he is very much a boom or bust player.
Right.
If he is going to play bad, he's probably having 3-4 picks. He is going to be playing terrible. But if he is on, I mean, he is putting you want him on your fantasy team because he's going to be getting 350 plus yards, probably 3 or 4 touchdown passes. So we'll just have to see early on if it is one of those boomer bust games with Jameis Winston.
I think he's going to put up some touchdowns, but he's probably going to have that 1 or 2 costly either fumble or interception. That's going to be the difference in the game. Sure. But I do think the Saints could be in trouble. But like I said, I'll take them by about 2 or 3 points.
Sure. So now we got Jets and Redskins for our toilet bowl matchup of the week. Who do you got here?
First of all, I just want to say, if you're a Redskins fan, if you're a true fan, I don't even care. Cheer for them to lose. There's no reason to win this game. Honestly, if you're this bad, you might as well just lose and lose out. And they won't have any problem losing this game. Trust me. Dwayne Haskins is just, awful. He's so bad. So I'm taking Jets.
I'm going with the Jets, too. I think it's one of those things. I think Dwayne Haskins is a very good quarterback. Obviously, in Ohio State, he put up numbers. I don't think the team that he is on, though, is doing him any favors.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess you got a point there, but I don't know. I was at that Thursday night game when the Vikings played him. I mean, man, I don't know. I'm not a Haskins guy, as you can tell.
And right now, NFL Haskins, I'm not. I still think he has a lot more to offer. That's kind of like Josh Rosen, I don't think Josh Rosen is a bad quarterback. I just think he's kind of gotten screwed with the teams he's been on so far his first 2 years in the league, with Arizona and Miami. So that's kind of my take on that. But we'll move on. Not a very intriguing matchup by any means. Got the Falcons and Panthers here. Who do you got for this one?
The Falcons got their one surprise win. I don't think there's a second coming. The Panthers are 5-4. They're still in the hunt. I mean, I don't think they got a very good shot, but they can't afford to lose this game. And it's at home. And, I mean, that defense for Atlanta is terrible. So if you got Christian McCaffrey on your fantasy team this week, be happy because I think he's going to go off. I'm taking Carolina by probably 7.
That's interesting. I'm actually going to go the underdog route. I think Falcons are going to ride that one that they had off of the Saints. And they actually looked like the team that they were supposed to be this year.
Right.
I think they're going to keep it going against the Panthers. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game because the Falcons have no defense and the Panthers' defense is extremely inconsistent. But I think at the end of the day, I think Falcons are going to get the win.
All right. I will say one thing about Atlanta. Honestly, I mean, call me crazy, but I think Brian Hill is probably better in the lineup than Freeman. I don't think Freeman has it anymore, and he's out, and Brian Hill is going to be in, and I think that honestly might be a good thing for Atlanta.
I agree 100%. We got the next matchup. I think for me, I don't know about you, Nick, but in my opinion, this is probably the most intriguing matchup of the week. Texans and Ravens. Who do you got in this one?
Oh, this is huge. I seen on Facebook, it was, I don't know, NFL page or what. They were showing Watson Jackson making a big deal about it, and it's not only is this a big game for the teams, but this is huge for the MVP race. I'm leaning Baltimore because I have not been high on Baltimore, to be honest, for like 3 years. But after watching them the last 2 weeks, man, they are good. I think they're the one team who's got a chance to beat New England in the AFC, and I'm going to lean with Lamar Jackson and take the Ravens.
I think I'm going to go with the Texans for the fact that obviously we know both quarterbacks can run.
Yep.
I will say this, though. I think it will come down to who's more consistent with their passing, because now Lamar Jackson, yes, he has had 2 games where he has put up perfect passer ratings, but let's remember, folks, those games were against the Cincinnati Bengals and the Miami Dolphins.
The Dolphins.
Okay, so I think Lamar Jackson is a heck of a player. Obviously, he's won 7 games this year, and I took down Tom Brady and the Patriots, which is not an easy task by any means. But I think at the end of the day, Deshaun Watson is the more consistent passer, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. So I'm going to go Texans. Next matchup, we got Cardinals 49ers. Who you got in this one?
I really desperately want the Cardinals to win. I want the Niners to get another loss. Vikings, I'm thinking big picture. I want to pass everybody in the NFC.
Yeah.
But I think the Niners are going to get it done. Kyler Murray actually looked pretty good against the Niners on, I believe that was Halloween, Thursday Night Football.
Oh.
But I just don't think they're going to be able to overcome San Fran, especially in San Fran. So I'll say San Fran.
I agree. I'm also going with the 49ers. I think Kyler Murray, first half, it could be a very close game, but I think that, the offense and defense is just going to pull away too. Let's see what happens there. Bengals and the Raiders. Are we going with the upset, Nick? Are the Bengals going to win?
I'm going with the Raiders.
The Raiders.
Honestly, I can't believe this, but the Raiders might make the playoffs. You heard it here.
Who would have thought that?
They play the Bengals, and I think they play the Jets next week. So I think the Raiders win this. I mean, Bengals, I honestly think it's either the Bengals or the Redskins for worst team in the NFL. Yeah. I really do. And I think the Raiders win. They win next week. They got a shot at the playoffs. But for tomorrow, I definitely think I'm going Oakland.
I'm going Oakland too for all the reasons that you said. Personally, I don't think, and I hope this isn't even a close game, because if it is, I don't know what the Raiders are going to do.
Oakland's favored by 12.5. So I mean,
yeah. So now to our next matchup. This one's a little tough. Patriots-Eagles. Who do you got here? New England's favored by 4.
It's a Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
I mean, now I'm just going to tell you this. Philly is at home. They need the win desperately. I could see them winning, but I don't know if I have ever picked against New England in my life. I'm not doing it. I will not do it. Tom Brady's the GOAT. That's a discussion for another day.
Yep.
Patriots are winning. I'm taking New England.
Taking New England. See, and I'm with it, and I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, like I just said. So I look for opportunities to take down the Patriots any chance I get. It's one of those things where I hate them, but I respect them. I respect the heck out of them, and Tom Brady too. I also agree he's a goat. But
yeah,
it's just so hard because Belichick, he rarely loses two. Like I don't even know any stats if he's lost two in a row or how long ago it was. It just is not a thing that happens. And they find ways to recover. They find ways to get back to the top again. And I think they're going to do it again here. I hope and I want the Eagles to win. I just think their offense is too inconsistent. With Aguilar and Jeffrey, I don't know what's going on with those two this season, but they're not helping Carson Wentz out at all. So I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think they're going to get the win. Next matchup that we got, Bears and Rams. Who do we got here?
Honestly, I don't think either team's that great. I really don't. If the Bears play the Vikings, I hate to say it, but they look like the best team in the NFL. But otherwise, their offense is just terrible. So I'm going to lean Rams. But to be honest, I don't think either team's that great. I really don't, even though LA's 5-4. But I'll pick the Rams.
I agree with you, too. I think the Rams are going to get the win. Not Nick Foles.
Goff.
Jared Goff. Very much like he's been very boomer bust this year. Obviously, he had, a 500-yard passing game. I mean, just absolutely.
And they lost.
And, lost, but then has also looked terrible this year. So I think the Rams are going to get the win, though. I don't think the Bears and Trubisky's going to do anything. And so now we go to the Monday night game, Chiefs and Chargers. Nick, who do you got?
I'm going to take Chiefs. The Chargers are that one team that just will find any way to lose a game. It'll probably be close. Monday night, they'll make you look like they'll win, and then they'll just probably, I don't know, miss a field goal or something or fumble a snap. But yeah. I'm taking Kansas City. I just want to say I will be watching because this is huge for my fantasy football.
yeah, me too. I've got Mahomes in quite a few leagues.
But I'm going to lean Chiefs.
Yeah. I'm going to go Chiefs as well, too. I think the Chargers are going to find a way to screw it up at the end, like you said.
Right.
We'll have to see.
They're so good at it.
They're very good at it. So we will check back next Saturday to see how correct our predictions were, if they were correct, if they weren't, and if we know what we're talking about, which first podcast, well, we'll have to see. So we'll move on here. We only got a couple more topics left, so we're going to talk about the NBA. Right now, beginning of the season, there's a little bit to talk about, but right now it's kind of hard to make any huge predictions. But you know what? We're going to do it anyways. So we're going to go NBA MVP predictions. Mr. Duckett, who do you got?
Well, I better get it out of the way here. I cheer for Minnesota and everything except NBA. I've always followed LeBron, wherever he goes. LeBron's my boy. The Lakers are my team. So, you can call me biased, but I'd say MVP as of right now, it's probably Harden or LeBron. My prediction for the end of the year, I'm going to say Harden because, everybody's injured right now for Houston. He's already putting up 38 a game. He's probably going to average like 40 for the next little bit. So I'll say Harden, but I think Harden, Giannis, and LeBron are going to be top three.
I agree. I think the top three is going to be in no particular order, one of those three. I'm gonna go with LeBron, and I think we see. I agree with you, Nick. You and I agree on a lot of different factors. This is one, and I think LeBron is definitely the greatest of all time. I know you have your spiel on it. You go back and forth, but you definitely recognize his greatness. And we both know one thing, and that is LeBron, when he is motivated, when he is, as some will say, playing pissed off, he turns into a god of a basketball player. And so far with what he's doing this season, obviously he's not putting up James Harden numbers. Overall, I think throughout the rest of the season, I think LeBron's going to win it. I really do.
I tell you what, I could have a 7-hour argument about LeBron, Jordan, anybody. But
oh yeah, same. I'm with you there.
I think just being that Harden has to be so much better because, he's pretty much fine. I mean, he's got Westbrook, I guess, but Davis is going to take a lot of it. I mean, LeBron's almost passive to Davis in the first quarter of a lot of games. I just think stats-wise, he's not going to average the points he used to.
Right.
And leaning Harden. But I will say, I don't think he's going to win it, but I think Luka Doncic is a dark horse. I think he might be like top 5 or 6. He's almost averaging a triple-double right now.
Yeah, that's
the Mavs are only like 6 and 5, but yeah.
Well, that is a dark horse one. Watch out for that one, folks. I like that prediction. I like that one for sure. But so not besides that, I mean, we've kind of been going for a while here, so I think the next show we will be talking about maybe end of the season predictions. But we will go into our final topic, and you and I had a little bit of a mini discussion on this through Facebook: sports rivalries. So, Nick, if you got to give us your top 3 sports rivalries in all of sports, what is it going to be for you?
Oh, I think number 1 is definitely Yankees-Red Sox, I think.
Yeah.
Now, see, with this topic, criteria is huge. I mean, it depends, 1, how much recency you think plays a role, how much history plays a role, how much competitiveness plays a role. Like, for instance, there's some rivalries where some teams won so many than the other lately. I don't know if it's really that great anymore. But Yankees, Red Sox, no matter what your criteria, I think is 1. I'm going to say Duke and UNC basketball is 2. And number 3 is the one I really struggle on. But, I mean, I got to lean. Man, I mean, Lakers Celtics maybe. I mean, they're not even the same conference, but for years it was just such a big rivalry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. 3 I really don't know, but for now I'll say that. The first 2 though, it's definitely those 2 I think are my first 2.
I agree. Yankees Red Sox for me is number 1. I think that's one of the best rivalries, if not the best in all sports. Obviously, you and I have a little bit of bias behind that, being baseball guys.
I mean, plus they play each other like 19 games a year,
Right.
So that helps.
Yeah, I think that's number 1. I think number 2, I'm gonna go with Lakers Celtics. I think just kind of for what's happened throughout the history, how often they've played each other, and then how much they get compared to each other. Lakers Celtics is definitely there. Number 3, so I'm going to kind of chilo. I'm going to do number 3 and number 4 just because it's kind of hard for me to do number 3. But number 3,
go ahead.
3 and 4 kind of go back and forth for me. For 3, I am going to go out there. I'm going to say Packers-Bears. That is a huge rivalry that has dated back to literally start of football. I mean, it's hard to find a bigger rivalry than that in football and sports for that matter, except for the Yankees-Red Sox. That's up there. But I think that's there. And then for me, I got to go hockey. Obviously, you're not the biggest hockey buff out there. But hockey rivalries are huge. You could go with a number of them. I think you could go, you can go Canadians, Maple Leafs, Avalanche, Red Wings. You could go Boston Bruins and pick your guy. It seems like they have a rivalry with just about everyone.
Right.
Right. But that's kind of how I'm good. That's who I'm going to go with. Well, do you have any more topics to talk about? I think we've talked about just about everything we kind of planned here. Do you have any final thoughts, closing thoughts from you?
I'm just going to mention, I see Oklahoma was down 21 going in the second half, and they just beat Baylor. So that pretty much eliminates Baylor from the CFP, I think.
Wow. Good for Oklahoma. They're playing for their lives right now.
Right. I mean, I don't think they have a very realistic shot. I mean, they almost lost to Iowa State. They lost to, Kansas State. But, I mean, They got a little bit of shot. And that win, although they barely won, it's a away win, and they came back down 21. So, I mean, it looks good for them.
Right. Yeah. Besides that, you got anything else? Any other points you want to bring up? Topics? Anything else?
I think we covered quite a bit. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think for our first one, I think it definitely went pretty well. So we'll throw in some little plugs here. Obviously, you can follow either of us on Twitter. Mine is Lucas_Dorton, Dorton, and then I believe your Twitter handle is just Duckett, right? Just _DOETTKOETT, right?
And Duckett.
And Duckett. Okay, yeah. So don't forget about the N in front of that. But yeah, definitely, follow us on Twitter. Give us a like. Definitely share this. Obviously, this is our first one.
Wait, you're right. That? You know my Twitter, and I don't even know mine. Yeah, it's just @Duckett.
Well, there we go. Well, you learn something every day, Nick, right? But like I said, definitely give us a like. If you liked it, share it. If you don't like it, well, then you don't have to share it, but you should anyway, just to be nice. But like you mentioned, I am Lucas Dorton. I am joined with Nick Duckett, and we will be back next week for another episode of Dorton and Doetkott Debate. Thank you for listening, folks.